Hello everyone, it's the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining today's webinar on how to manage your total information lifecycle. We appreciate you all being here, and the first thing I'd like to do is take a second to introduce our speakers. My name is Shana Horka, and I am the Product Marketing Manager here at Gimmel, and I am joined by our key speaker, Gimmel's Director of Sales Engineering, Dean Meisenheimer. Before we get started, I just want to go through a few housekeeping items. We will have a live Q&A after today's session, so please feel free to submit questions throughout the webinar, and at the end we will answer as many as we can. If you have any technical difficulties, please send us a message and let us know so we can help you solve any issues you may be having. So to kick things off, I have just a few slides here to tell you a little bit about Gimmel. Gimmel is a records, information management, and governance software company that was founded in 2002. We have a client success team and a global network of partners that have been delivering solutions with us for more than 17 years. Our primary technology partners are Microsoft and SAP. Our implementation partners include small specialty SIs with specific areas of expertise, as well as large global SIs and consultants like PwC and Lockheed Martin. And with over 500,000 licensed users and growing, we have a strong community of who we consider some of the best clients in the world. Now I'm going to dive a little deeper into the problem that Gimmel software solves. The reason Gimmel exists is because so many enterprises struggle to manage the sheer volume of information and systems they have. For years, they've been adding business applications and information, but they haven't been able to create a consistent way to manage the life cycle of their information across these systems or dispose of unneeded or outdated information. This makes doing business more difficult, less secure, and less compliant. Gimmel's family of software products work together to let you create an efficient digital workplace. Our comprehensive software products include records management, content governance for SharePoint, and document management for SAP. Gimmel's content governance for SharePoint product solves the first hurdle in the records management process by automating the classification and organization of newly uploaded content and then storing that content in its proper location within SharePoint and Office 365. Gimmel's document management for our SAP solution easily connects SAP and SharePoint content, data, processes, putting critical business information right where people work. And finally, Gimmel's records management solution offers seamless integration to manage your information within all of your repositories, not just SharePoint and Office 365, but also file shares, Box, FileNet, Documentum, and others. It manages your content sources consistently from a single dashboard with a central file plan builder that ensures your organization's most valuable information is managed properly and with the correct retention schedule. Gimmel's records management will give your organization a unified view and access point to your entire information inventory. But without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Dean so he can go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Shana. In today's webinar, we're actually going to take you across the entire Gimmel product suite and show how the combination of products can really bring together a solution that adds a lot of value to all of the different audiences that you may need to address in your organization. To give you an idea of some of our customers that are using our SAP integration with Office 365, you can see a variety of customers around the globe in different industries, companies like Wilmar, L'Oreal, Allianz, and others, all using the combination of Gimmel with Office 365 to archive and manage content in their organizations. So why do we need a product that allows us to archive information from SAP out of the SAP database? Well, the bottom line is ERP systems like SAP, they weren't designed for storing documents, right? They're about transactional data and managing your business and driving the transactions behind your business, whether that's contracts or HR or plant maintenance or whatever it may be. They weren't designed to be document stores. That was done more than anything as a convenience, right? If my documents are in SAP, the only people who can access them are SAP users, which is a limited audience typically within an organization. I don't have the library services capabilities for things like version control or search or other things. And I certainly don't have the governance and records management policies that I can apply on that content. So, those are just some of the reasons why we may want to move information out of SAP into a platform like Office 365. if we kind of contrast the two, they're both very, very good at what they do. But Office 365 was designed as a cloud-based environment for enterprise-wide content access and collection, right? It's a place to put information. It provides those library services, check-in, check-out, version control, security. I may be able to see documents that Shana can't. Shana may be able to see things that I can't. And the whole content creation capability, right, with the integration with Office and other creation tools. And then it's optimized really for discovery and retrieval, right? Once we put information in, the idea is users want to go find it, use it to do their jobs on a day-to-day basis because they want to collaborate. They want to manage business processes internally and externally across the organization. ERP systems, on the other hand, are very good at managing all of that structured data that arises from your different transactions across the organization. You know, again, regardless of what modules of SAP you're using, you know, it's a single place where all of that information is captured, stored, and that's what it's optimized for, right? It is optimized for transactional data, not large document blobs that get shoved into a database, right? And it integrates all of your structured transactional data together. They both do what they do very well, but with Gimmel, we can bring those two worlds together and actually connect them and leverage the power of both. So Gimmel DM for SAP sits in between your SAP and your Office 365 environment and allows content that is attached to SAP business transactions to be archived out automatically into Office 365 libraries. So it's captured there. It can be used alongside other information that you're creating, that you're managing. It can now be brought into additional services and shared through things like Teams, right? So now I can collaborate potentially on plant maintenance documents or contracts or whatever I need to in a Microsoft team, you know, with information that may be attached to SAP. I can share that information and I can start to use some of the newer tools that Microsoft has introduced, like Flow, or is now called Power Automation, to drive the business process around the review without having to take all of my users into the SAP environment. So when you start to look, you know, organizations have realized that, you know, Microsoft, the Microsoft O365 platform is a strategic investment in organizations. It can touch every user across the organization. And it's a platform that was designed for the cloud and really for the future. Traditional legacy SAP archiving solutions weren't. They struggle to get into the cloud. They are legacy architectures that have been developed over 20 years and through multiple acquisitions, right? They were not designed cloud first. And Office 365 is ubiquitous, right? There's not many organizations you're going to go into that do not have Office 365 license because everybody's using Exchange, everyone's using Office, everyone is using SharePoint, right? So that becomes a platform you already have that can be leveraged for SAP archiving, and it's cost effective. It's cloud, it's mobile ready. I can access that information through the apps that are provided, through a browser, any way I need to get to it. And the platform continues to be extensible. Microsoft continues to invest in the Office 365 platform, adding new services. You know, one of the things they recently announced is Project Cortex, right, which is really driving the whole knowledge management aspect of Office 365 moving forward. Well, if my information is locked away in the SAP database, it's not available to these services that Microsoft Office 365 can provide to the rest of my organization. If I get the information out of SAP into Office 365, it's now available both, and we'll show you this in the demo, to my SAP audience and to a larger audience, and it can be pulled into this knowledge network where it can now be used to help drive the intelligence of the organization. So, you know, Project Cortex was announced at Microsoft Microsoft Ignite, and it's all about using the AI capabilities in the platform to take the data that's there and accumulate knowledge about your business, to really extract topics and teach the knowledge network with large stores of content. And where's a lot of that content going to come from? From your business transactions, right? And then use machine learning and really take advantage of the advancements in analytics now both in the ECM platform and the Office 365 platform, as well as in your ERP environment, right? So that's the advantage that having these two environments connected can bring to the table. Shana talked about the Gimbal platform earlier. If we look at it in a slightly different view, this is really how it can fit into your organization, right? In the center of the screen here, we have SharePoint and Office 365 as that core information management platform. A lot of organizations still have legacy systems out there or other content repositories they need to deal with. They even have network file shares they need to deal with. And so Gimbal allows you to connect your SAP environment with Office 365. So now as content is added to SAP transactions, those business documents can be automatically archived, remain attached to SAP, worked with an SAP, but now also become available to all of the resources that Office 365 brings to the table. Gimbal's content governance for SharePoint streamlines the Office 365 experience with intelligent drag and drop and automatic tagging and uploading of content into the right locations, with automatic movement of content based on the state of a piece of content. And other capabilities around things like decommissioning of sites once a site has reached the end of its life cycle. And then sitting over all of this is Gimbal Records Management, providing the records management policy, the lifecycle retention, the disposition, even managing your physical records, the boxes you've got sitting out in file rooms and warehouses, but providing that governance layer across everything, not just Office 365, but the content brought from SAP and the content sitting out there in your legacy environments, right? Providing that one tool to give you a view of all of that information. And that's what we're going to show you in the demo, how really the Gimbal advantage is, we let you spend time on what matters by simplifying the management of information, regardless of where that information may exist. Let you use cloud platforms to get information into the platforms where you really need it, automate the life cycles, work with our key partners like SAP, like Microsoft, with different industry organizations, and really provide a proven solution, right? These are products that have been in the market, in production with clients around the world in many, many different industries, on a day-to-day basis. And so with that, what we'd like to do is stop showing you slides and actually show you the demo. So let me get out of the slides here real quick. And we're actually going to start off in Office 365. So we'll kind of look at this a little bit from the different user roles. I'm in Office 365. I happen to be in a SharePoint Online site that I've set up to manage a lot of my different purchase orders. I have a site here called Procure to Pay. I have different libraries in this site for my different types of purchase orders. I've got my POs, I've got documents specifically related to my German operations, I've got my vendor invoices. Center of the screen, just seeing the most recent purchase orders that have been brought in. And at the bottom, I have here what we call a drop zone. This is part of Gimbal's governance tools for SharePoint, where to streamline the process again for end users, if I need you to upload a new purchase order, let's say somebody dropped one on your desk, you scanned it, maybe one came in through email, regardless of how you got it, I need to bring in a new document here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab this document, this PO, and I'm just going to drag and drop it on the drop zone. And what that does is it brings up a dialog box, and Gimbal's drop zone allows me to set up profiles for my different content types that I may have. And in each one of those profiles, I can indicate what information do I need you as the user to provide. In this case, it's nothing more than the PO number, because that's what's going to link this document to SAP in the background. So I'm going to enter that PO number. The document is getting uploaded into SharePoint. So as an end user, nothing really looks any different. Drag and drop a document, enter one piece of metadata in this case, the document gets uploaded into my SharePoint library. What's happening in the background is Gimbal Document Management for SAP sees that document, takes a look at the information. It then moves that document to the appropriate location in SharePoint. Where I drop it may not be its final resting location, and it reaches into SAP to actually extract and populate other metadata on this document in SharePoint. So it may take a moment here for it to show up in our library. Let's see. Yep. So we'll wait a minute for that to happen. Refresh our screen here. Yep. Yeah, so we'll give it a minute for that to pop over. So what's happening is documents getting moved, SAP is getting queried, documents getting attached to SAP. Because if I go into my SAP screen here now, I've already logged into SAP, and what we want to do is we want to come in and take a look at our purchase orders. We're going to go in, we could come in here now and query and look for whatever purchase order we want to find in SAP. We're going to use that same purchase order number, 123. So we, whoops, and if Dean hits the right button, we'll do better. So we'll query for that. Here's my purchase order in SAP GUI. We got all the information about that PO. We can scroll through the various screens, but I'm not here to demo SAP GUI. We're here to look at the integration. If I come up now and I click on the pull-down menu and I look at the attachment list, what we're going to see is here's that document that I just brought in a few minutes ago into SharePoint. It's already been attached automatically in the background to my SAP transaction. So it's now one of the available documents to my SAP audience. The user, he doesn't know the document's sitting in SharePoint. It's an SAP attachment. He can work with it in SAP GUI, do his job exactly as he's been trained to do. Everything is, everything's exactly the way we need it to be. If we go back into SharePoint and we refresh our screen here, we should see that same document now here in our SharePoint library. It took a minute to get moved over. It's early in the morning. But here you see our document. And if you recall, I entered one piece of information as the user, that SAP PO number. It went to SAP and pulled all of this other information, the purchasing group, the company code, the partner name, the partner ID. That was all automatically pulled out of SAP from all the transactional information because we had the one key field, the PO number, to link the two together, right? What happens now, going back to talking about some of the things we did in the slides, my information, it's easy to get information into SharePoint. That information now becomes much more intelligent and much more well described in SharePoint. So now it can be searched for, it can be used more effectively, and it can be used to drive that AI network that we talked about. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come in and we're actually going to go and grab a different PO. So we're going to come in here and we're going to grab this guy here, 579. And the reason I want to grab this guy is I want to show you something slightly differently. This is a PO for my German operation, right? They're over in Berlin. We need to add some additional documents onto this purchase order. So now I'm an SAP user, not a SharePoint user. I'm going to come in, we're going to look at the attachment list. We can see that there are 3 documents currently attached. And what I want to do is I'm going to come in and actually create and store a new business document. So that brings up the SAP GUI screen. I'm going to choose the type of document that I want to attach. And again, this is all SAP out of the box here. So now we're going to come in and grab our purchase orders, and we'll scroll down here and we will grab paperwork 17579. Okay, we open that, SAP grabs it, SAP is going to upload it, and SAP is then going to enter that as an attachment to our SAP transaction. So we'll give the network here a minute to get that done. We click OK. And now, if we come up here and we look at our attachment list, here's our new document that we just added today. We're logged in as Tony Smith. Okay, be cooler if I was logged in as Tony Stark, but you know. So here's our new document. Now what's happening, again, as an SAP user, nothing's changed. I've done exactly what I'm used to doing. But in the background, Gimmel Document Management for SAP is monitoring SAP. It sees the new business document being stored, and it's going to automatically archive this document out of the SAP database and over to SharePoint. Now, as an SAP user, if I want to view that document, I can double click it and I can have it open up. I'm opening it up in a browser tab, but I can have it fetch that document and I can take a look at it. So as an SAP user, nothing's any different, right? I'm doing what I always do. But if we come over to SharePoint, well, one thing you're going to notice is it's not in my purchase orders library because this particular PO is related to our Berlin operation. But if we go into our German documents library, what we're going to see is here's that document that we attached to the Berlin transaction. It's been moved into SharePoint, exactly like we said, but based on information like the partner name, the SAP company code, we've actually done dynamic routing and routed it to a different SharePoint library than we did the other purchase order because of the information that's being stored in SAP. So we can dynamically move things to the location they need to based on what that information is and what we know about it. Okay. The other thing that that happens is this becomes a dynamic connection between the two. SAP is my system of record, right? That's where things are created, stored, and managed. What happens if somebody comes along and goes, no, that's the wrong PO, you attached the wrong thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me delete that. So we're going to come in and say we're going to get rid of this record. We don't need to actually view it because SAP always wants to show us the record, the documents we're going to delete. And we're going to say delete that archive document. But now again, I'm an SAP user. I'm working in SAP. I'm doing normal day-to-day activities. I delete this document. Document's been deleted. Now we're back to only having 3 items on my attachment list. Do I now need to go back and actually delete that document from SharePoint? The answer is no. The document's going to get removed from SharePoint automatically based on it being removed from the attachment list in SAP. Excuse me. So, the nice thing is this becomes a dynamic connection between the two environments. Now, again, once I have my information in Office 365, now I can begin to link that information into all of the other services that Office 365 brings to the table. Whether that's search, whether that's sharing information, regardless of what that may be, as a SharePoint user, I can come in, I can view my information. Here's my new document that we just uploaded. If I click on that document, it brings up the ribbon, right? Now I could share this document with outside parties if my organization allows that. If I select the document, I click share. My company doesn't allow me to share it with outside folks, but I can share it different ways, maybe with Shana or with others in the organization who need to review this purchase order, but I don't need to let them into SAP to do that. Another way I can begin to share and leverage this information is using some of the newer tools in Office 365, like Microsoft Flow or others, right? So I can come in here, I can select a document, I can go to Flow, and I could come in here and let's say now maybe I want to leverage Microsoft Teams because that's become our internal collaboration tool. I can select the document, trigger a flow that will automatically send a link to this document in SharePoint that is attached back to my SAP transaction into a Microsoft team. we're now connecting all these services together and allowing you to easily work with it. So we're going to run the flow, and this sends a message out to my Microsoft Teams environment. Maybe I have a team set up for purchase order reviewers, or I have a team set up for a specific project team, and I need somebody on the project team. I can route that message into a team location wherever I need to. And now we see there's a new message in the general channel of my project management portal. Oh, here's a message that just came in from Dean a few minutes ago. Please review and approve this PO. If I click on that, it's going to bring that PO up from SharePoint. Now I can review it. I can choose whether or not that should be paid. And maybe I respond through another flow. Maybe I simply respond in the team and I say something to the effect of, pay it, right? I'm good. So again, it starts to bring together all of the information. Now, as this information is coming in and out and being moved around, we talked earlier, Gimbal Records Management is sitting in the background, and it's watching, and it's monitoring, and it's seeing new information that's getting added to Office 365 or existing information that may be modified with metadata changing or things moving around. And what happens is Gimbal Records Management will reach out and actually crawl and index and automatically classify any of the information it finds in Office 365 against your records management policies. So we see this button here at the top called Manage Record. If I select my document, I click Manage Record, what that does is it actually will bring the records information back from Gimbal Records Management where I can view it through SharePoint if I have the appropriate records management privileges. Right, so we'll give that a moment to bring it up. And what's happened is when that document was archived from SAP into SharePoint, Gimbal Records Management crawled it, captured the properties off of it, and now automatically gave it a unique identifier. Knows it's an electronic record, knows exactly where that record is in Office 365, and then assigned it to the appropriate record classification based on knowing what it is, and even assigned it to a record case file, knowing what the metadata, knowing what purchasing group, for example, this was from. So we're collecting and organizing all of our purchase order records into case files based on the purchasing group, right? And then we see down here at the bottom, based on its record classification, it's automatically inherited the appropriate life cycle. So from the time this will be declared a record at some point, it'll be kept for 6 years and then disposed and deleted of. I mentioned all the properties that we captured off of it. Any of the information about that record in SharePoint can be used to drive the record classification and to drive the retention. So we know things like the created date, the file name, the file size. We know what folder it's sitting in. If you're using retention labels in Office 365, those can be used. We know it came from SharePoint Online, so now we know information like the content type, the name of the library it's in, the title of the document in SharePoint, the name of the site collection. We know all of the, because we know the content type, we know all of the metadata information. So now guess what? Here's all of that SAP information that was brought over. We know the company code, we know the partner name. We can now use that partner name to create our case files to collect and manage all of our records, about this. And that's all configured and set up through the Gimbal Records Management interface. Again, Gimbal Records Management is a web-based SaaS application that allows a records team to have a single view of all of their records being managed, whether those records are all in SharePoint Online or whether they may be distributed across the organization in other locations like file shares, legacy systems, or as I mentioned earlier, even physical records. I've been doing this a long time. The paperless office is still not here. I'm not sure it ever will be. So physical records are still out there as well. And what happens is, as we talked about, as new information is added to SharePoint, SharePoint is monitored. We classify the records automatically. we assign them to different record classes, and then we have visibility of the records coming into the system. And if we want broader visibility, we can come into our Manage screen, and this is where we can see all of our records being managed regardless of their location. So in this one screen here, I have SharePoint records, records on my file share, I've got physical records. I can see if records have been declared and locked down in the appropriate repository. So we can trigger locking on records in SharePoint, for example. I can manage legal holds on records, whether they're in SharePoint, on a file share, physical records, or wherever. I can do things like mark records as, excuse me, mark records as obsolete. And if I want to get a more granular view, I can actually come in here and view records by my file plan. So now, here are all of my different record categories. We're going to jump over here to page 2 and specifically go look at our purchasing records, since we're dealing with purchase orders today. And if I expand that out, you notice how the UI is very visual. It tells me if areas can be expanded. Here's my purchasing category. Here are my 2 purchasing record classes. And if I expand out purchase orders PUR02, you notice how the folder is sitting open versus PUR01, which is closed. Here I manage records individually. Here I collect my records into case files. And here are all of the records organized into cases for my different business partners. And if I wanted to come in here and look at the Armstrong and Partners records, I simply click on that. There's one record there for Armstrong and Partners. It's in SharePoint Online. Again, you notice it's actually part of a legal hold. So now if we come in here and we click the ellipsis, those same types of record details we could view from SharePoint, we can see from here. In PUR02, here's the case file, here's the identifier. It tells me it's on legal hold. Here's the location of that record in SharePoint, and here's the legal hold that that record is now assigned to. And by virtue of being on legal hold, the record now cannot be removed from SharePoint because it's locked down as long as it's attached to the hold. So even if SAP said we need to remove that record, no, we can't. It's on legal hold. We have to keep a copy of it as long as it is, right? So I begin to have the visibility. I begin to have the ability to see and manage my records regardless of where those records are coming from. And for your compliance and records management team, they can configure and set all of that up through a single web-based interface. So if you are managing records in SharePoint Online, but you have other content sources, you have one view where you can now see and manage all of your records. If I want to come in here and set up my purchasing category, for example, I can come in, I can see my respective record classes for purchase orders. I can set up the rules around how any records that are assigned here get managed. I want to set up a rule, I want to collect those into cases, and I want to use the SAP partner name metadata field to create my cases. I want to assign those records to a lifecycle. Here's the lifecycle that we've built in Gimmel Records Management to manage those records, finance records plus 6 years. We have rules set up that will automatically classify the records to this record class. And now I can, come in here and take a look at those. So if we come in, my classification rules, again, are using combinations of things like if the record came over from SharePoint, we know it moved from SAP into SharePoint. We pulled all that metadata over. Now we can look at the content type and say, is it a purchase order? And since it's a demo system, we're going to limit it to that one site. Is it in the procure to pay site collection? If these two conditions are true, assign that record to this record class, right? And then as you saw, we used other metadata to create the case files underneath that record class. And then lastly, I've now got all this information being managed, right? In addition to using all of the services that Office 365 provide, I may need to be able to go out and search and find records across any of the content sources that Gimmel Records Management is connected to. So our search gives me the ability to go out and do a search, go look for records, whether those records are in Office 365 or where those records may be sitting outside Office 365, in this case, on a managed file share, right? So I got 3 records that were returned back when I searched for the term Berlin. 2 of those have been classified as records. 1 of those is a document that was returned through a full text search. For any of these, I can expand the plus sign and see the information about. You notice in this document, it has the string Scheinerstraße 103, Berlin, Germany. That's why it matched our search. If we come in and take a look at one of these are some of the documents that we saw all the way back in SAP, looking at the Berlin transaction. If I expand one of these out, we can see that these have been assigned to a record class in Gimbal Records Management. I can see where the record is. I can see the information about it. And if I want to see the record details, even from the search screen, I can come in here now, click it, see those same record details, see the record class, see the case file, see where the record is at, view the properties, see the audit trail, even come in and assign this record to a legal hold if we need to from the search screen. So with that, we're going to kind of move back into the slides now. With that, I want to see if we have any questions that have come in throughout the demo. Shana, do we have any questions that popped in?
It actually doesn't look like we do, so I guess that means that you did a really good job explaining everything, Dean.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you wrap it up.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll let everyone go pretty early in the holiday spirit, so I'm going to go ahead and conclude today's session. Hope everyone enjoyed it, and if you have any questions at all or want to receive a personalized demo of our software, please feel free to email Dean or myself directly, or you can go to the website or email info@gimmel.com. We're also going to send out this webinar between 24 and 48 hours. So thank you everyone for joining, and have a great day.